Hello, I'm Carys Davies, and I'm really delighted to be introducing my latest novel, Clear, Despejado, to Spanish readers. So Clear is the story of Ivar, the last lone inhabitant of a tiny island in the North Sea off the far north coast of Scotland, beyond Shetland, beyond the Orkney Islands. And it's also the story of John, the Presbyterian church minister, newly married, impoverished, who's been sent by the landowner to evict Ivar so the land can be used for grazing sheep. But almost as soon as John arrives at the island, he falls off a cliff and is found by Ivar, who takes him back to his home and nurses him back to health. Meanwhile, back on the mainland, John's wife Mary begins to worry that John should never have accepted this mission, that it's a dangerous one, and that he's being set up by the landlord as some kind of fall guy. So Ivar is completely uneducated, he's illiterate, he's utterly self-reliant, he has no religious faith, and his whole world has been the island. He's lived there since he was born, and for the last 20 years he's been completely alone since his family left. John, on the other hand, is highly educated, and if Ivar's experience of the world is primarily a physical one, John's is an intellectual one. They have no common language. John speaks English, Ivar speaks a language called Norn. So to begin with, everything seems to be against any kind of relationship developing between John and Ivar, but slowly in Ivar's company, and as he begins to learn Ivar's language, he begins to see that there's a different way of living in the world, a way where it's not God who determines what happens in our lives, but us. Clear is set at a very turbulent moment in Scottish history when two really big social upheavals are taking place. The year is 1843, the year of the Great Disruption, when the Scottish church split in two and a breakaway church formed in which the ministers had given up their livings, their churches, their houses, and become homeless and penniless, and John Ferguson is one such minister. The other big social upheaval is the Highland clearances, whereby Scottish landowners are clearing their estates of smaller, poorer tenants to make way for sheep grazing. I didn't really choose this moment in history. It kind of chose me because I stumbled across a dictionary, an old dictionary of an extinct language called Norn, which used to be spoken on Orkney and Shetland when they belonged to Denmark. And I began to wonder what might have happened if this language hadn't died out, if it had persisted into the middle of the 19th century. I began to imagine a really remote island way beyond Shetland on the way to Norway. And I began to imagine a man living there alone, the very last speaker of this vanishing language. So this kind of dropped me into the 1840s, into this very turbulent moment, the Great Disruption, the Highland clearances, which seemed such an incredibly rich, dramatic moment, so morally complicated, religiously complicated, and socially difficult. And I wanted to see what might happen to a small group of characters who had to deal with those forces. All my novels are in some way about language and our difficulty in communication, how words, in spite of their great precision, can so often fail us. And in Clear, what John and Ivar don't say to each other is almost as important as what they do say to each other. And it's a kind of paradoxical situation that even as John is trying to grasp the nuance and specificity of the words in Ivar's language to describe a particular kind of cloud or a particular kind of hill, he's at the same time keeping so much back, and so much is unsaid. And I think, although I think it's true in many ways what the poet John Donne famously said about no man being an island, that we all crave and need connection. I also think it's not true. I think we are all islands. It's one of the great mysteries of being human. We live inside our own heads. We cannot get inside another person's head, and language and words are our best approximation, along with our bodies, of making that connection. But the great magic of fiction is that you can lay all those different realities in front of the reader. Language and communication are so important in all my novels, and it means so much to me that Clear is being translated into Spanish by Libros del Asteroid. I'm really looking forward to coming to Spain to meet Spanish readers and talk about the book there.